Hola, ¿cómo andas? Me llamo James, soy de Londres. Trabajo en el BBC como ingeniero. Este es mi primero viaje a Argentina. Ah, Solo he estudiado español por 2 semanas. Es muy difícil. Así que voy a hablar en inglés. Okay, so no more Spanish. I'll just get into what we're doing at BBC News Labs to try and make transcription easier for everyone. Okay, so a little bit about BBC News Labs as a team. You've probably not heard of them before. So, if that goes. So we are an innovation incubator within news. We're a small team made up of engineers, designers, and journalists, and we drive innovation by experimenting with new tools and new ideas in the newsroom. So we have two main strands of exploration in what we do. So the first is new audience experiences. So this is about experimenting with new formats and new ways to tell stories for our users. We do a lot with conversational chatbots, so things with Facebook Messenger. We do a lot with WhatsApp, and also in-article bots on our news pages. We've done some big stuff in the past with Amazon Alexa and how we can navigate and have interactive news with voice devices. And more recently, we've been doing some stuff with graphical storytelling. So this is the idea of taking our text articles and automatically translating them into sets of comic-style visuals for creating more engaging formats for our audiences and making it compatible with things like AMP stories and Instagram stories. So the other side of what we do is improving production workflows at the BBC. So we have tons of journalists, and we make internal-facing tools for these journalists to hopefully make their lives much easier and do the heavy lifting for them. For example, translation for world service. So the BBC outputs in 40 different languages across the world, and there's loads to be done there. Also, video reversioning, so putting it into different formats, different languages, and creating better workflows for our video producers. And also speech-to-text services. So at the heart of a lot of these kind of projects is transcription. So taking your audio or your video and turning it into text. It's also a huge part of editorial workflow. So any journalists here, do you deal with transcriptions? Any hands? Yeah? Okay, quite a lot of hands. Awesome. Recopado. Right. Right, so if you didn't put your hand up, you might be wondering why transcript's useful. Very quickly, so journalists, obviously, pulling out key quotes and bits of information for your stories. You have researchers analyzing interviews at scale, large bits of data, and collating themes for documentaries. Video producers use transcripts to edit programs, navigate footage, find good clips, and also make captions for their videos. And there's some interesting stuff with metadata as well. So if you have a transcript for your piece, you could extract things like names, places, topics, and subjects. And these can be used to make tags, related content, and also improve things like search engine results, and so on. So there's loads of stuff you can do there. And so here it is. If you put your hand up, you probably know this already, but transcribing manually and accurately 1 hour of media can take about 3 to 4 hours. So that could be half of your working day just spent typing stuff out. That's a huge time sink. Now, if you don't want to be doing this yourself, there are alternatives. So there's the idea of manual transcription, so outsourcing it and paying another human to do it for you, basically. And this is very accurate, and there are some great services for that. But it's quite a long turnaround time, and also these can be extremely expensive. So on average, these kinds of services cost about $1 a minute, or $60 US an hour. So was that 3,500 peso? Imagine you have 30 or 40 hours of documentary footage, or you're working with a giant kind of archive project like we often are in the BBC. That could be a tremendous amount of money, right? So the alternative is automated transcription using speech-to-text engines to generate it for you. And there are some great services for that as well. But automation only gets you so far. You're always going to have problems with spelling errors, punctuation, places, names, also difficulty with different accents, languages, and if you have background audio or like poor audio, it does struggle with that as well. Additionally, at the BBC, we have investigative journalists who deal with confidential material, and sometimes you don't want to be sending that off premises. So with security, time, and money in mind, News Labs, a couple of years ago, made a tool called Octo. And this was about creating transcripts for our BBC journalists. It used an open source tool for transcription called Caldi, and we trained a model using many thousands of hours of BBC content to get it really up to scratch with that. It was pretty simple. So what you did was select and upload your media, and then send it off. It will come back to you with an email, and then the journalist would take this, stick it into Microsoft Word, and go away with it. Pretty simple. And it was good. So we were finding it was saving people lots of money already, and it was a really great starting point. But some of the negative feedback, it wasn't perfect. So the formatting was a little bit weird, and it did struggle when there was background noise, and it would get stuff wrong. So it was a really good starting point, but there was lots more work to be done, and we wanted to go that extra step. So what I'm showing you today is our React transcript editor. So this is a reusable editor to make the transcription and correction of these things much, much easier. Right. So here's the demo very quickly. It's an interactive editor, and you can navigate, and it syncs up with the text and the video, so you can click on any word, jump to the video, and you can make your corrections really simply. So when you start typing, it pauses so it doesn't run away from you, and it has a bunch of other really simple features which make it really easy and much nicer to correct these transcripts. It's really intuitive. It works like any other kind of text editor. And it's really important to catch errors like this because they happen pretty much everywhere in speech-to-text. So there are lots of other features like keyboard shortcuts to navigate, go back and forward. And if things are really difficult to understand, you can slow them down to half speed or speed up or do whatever you want. So if you like the look of this, you might be thinking, how can I use it? So there are a couple of design decisions that we had. So one of them is we don't care what speech-to-text engine you use. So if in your newsroom, in your different companies, you already use things like Speechmatics or IBM Watson, we can write plugins or make plugins, and they all have different formats, so it doesn't matter. We can use any engine. And it's also a React component library. So this is an open source project, and you can use as much of it or as little as you need. So any developers in the room, how you would use it, I don't know if you can see that, you'd pull it from NPM, and you just stick it into your project just like that, really simply. And if you already have a bunch of tools in your newsroom, and you just want the text editor, you don't want the media player, if you want to hook it up to your own system, you could do the same thing, just grab the text editor. So it's really simple, and you can slot it into lots of different places. Which brings me to other workflows. The fact that you can slot it into different tools really easily has opened up lots of doors for us in the BBC. So here's some examples where the transcript editor has been useful. So there's a new prototype at the moment with BBC News Labs called Digital Paper Edit. This is the idea of taking our automated transcripts and then making snippets of those to assemble audio and video program edits. So I'm running a workshop on this later this afternoon, so if it sounds interesting, the idea is, can we assemble and generate programs just by highlighting the bits that we want? So yeah, come join me later if that's interesting. Another tool that we've been working on, or we have done in the past, is Audiogram. So this was originally a tool from WNYC, and it was about how can we share clips from radio programs and podcasts online and on social media. So what it originally did was generate graphics and waveforms so that you could upload it to Instagram and Facebook, etc. And what News Labs did was append the idea of having captions on top. And the way that we did that was by transcribing the audio and then being able to edit the audio on top. So that's a good example of that there. As I mentioned, it's all open source. And I think it being open source has been a great driver of innovation. So it's on GitHub. The link will be at the end if you're a developer, you want to get involved. But yeah, lots of doors have opened up for us, and lots of improvements and features have come from the community. And not just independent developers, but also we've worked with other newsrooms as well. So The Guardian, the Times and Sunday Times, Salzburg Research, we've been collaborating with these guys. And in certain cases, like in the Swiss-German broadcaster, SRF, we found that they've actually been using it in their newsrooms, and so it's incorporated with their workflows really easily as well, which is great to see. So yeah, that's it. If you like the look of it and you want to get involved, please help us. And yeah, we can help you hopefully get this tool into your newsroom and make transcription easier for all of you as well.